Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is David Meyer. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you? Good to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you. And before we start, we need to give a big shout out to John Corcoran from Rise 25, who introduced us.
Guy is a connection maker.
He is, absolutely. He introduced me to many very good people that a lot of them have been a guest on my podcast. So thank you, John. Okay, David, now let me introduce you. And we're going to have a great conversation today on a topic that I really like to talk about, which is I like vision, I like the mission, I like the higher purpose of an organization, but I like to see how it's aligned to every other part of the company. And we're going to talk about that because here's your bio. So people will understand what is the connection here. So you have over 35 years of experience. You are an industry veteran with an experience growing large national brands, Kellogg's, Coca-Cola, and is the founder of Spoke Marketing, a 16-year-old business-to-business agency that primarily serves business-to-business clients. So if you have a business that has a business-to-business, you are the one who is serving them. And with the exception of a division that focuses exclusively on national fiber internet providers.
That's we've got that. And so business to business, just one thing. So we do business to business. It's primarily where we are, but and we're guilty of it, where we say we're business to business just because you need to pick a niche. So a lot of companies that run on EOS, if we were going to dive further down, and then manufacturers, technology, professional services, all those. The thing with business to business and business to consumer, I think people forget, is it's all people. So it's business to people, whether it's direct to consumer or it's the same. It's just different channels, different types of messages, but it's all understanding what your target wants to hear. Getting in what are the benefits and sorry, I'm rambling.
No, but it's true. Okay, well, let me continue with the bio here. So there are a lot of great storytellers in the industry, but what sets you apart is your ability to understand often complex product services and distill them into language that motivates buyers. You understand the big picture, but you dive into the details. And you're always curious and open-minded. You also ask questions clients hadn't considered before, which is definitely a great trait, creating different vantage points for discovery and novel paths forward. So although you're not a sales consultant, you understand several sales methodologies, and you successfully work with businesses with virtually every type of sales channel and create marketing programs that communicate to each stakeholder at every step of their buying process. So it's definitely the ability to communicate very well. So you have a career that spans decades. You had a front row seat and sometimes a driver's seat as the marketing industry has transformed. And you've seen the importance placement in the yellow pages.
That's how old I am.
What is yellow pages? And you replaced by search engine marketing rankings, and is helping clients. Now you're helping clients the disruption of generative AI and data-driven decisions and technology, helping them with data-driven decisions and technology. and they continue to change. So we're talking about marketing and basically how to create effective messages that align with the purpose and the mission and the vision of the organization. So let's start with that. So tell us about the connection between a message, a good marketing message, your brand, your messaging, and who you are in terms of your vision and your mission. And how have you seen also when it's not being used in companies?
So that's what marketing does, is defines the benefits. Marketing is what happens when the salesperson leaves the room. And I think we realized, so that's what we do for big clients. What we for every client, but we really had an aha. We started running on EOS about, I don't know, 2019, and got involved in the community and realized EOS is great. All of the different business operating systems are varying, maybe a different chorus of the same song. You do really good work where you get your mission and your vision, what's going to set you apart, what makes you unique, what's your process, all of these great things. And then you go to a company's site and it's like family owned and operated since 1973. It's like, no, you got the answer. It's right here on the piece of paper. So their marketing doesn't align with their mission, vision, values. There's often a huge disconnect. And I think it's difficult for people to put into language that their customers understand. I guess if it wasn't, I wouldn't have a job. But it's people being able to simplify and understand where their target's coming from and figuring out what it is they really care about.
So good. So what is your advice for companies? What should they do when they're looking at their marketing? How should they align it to their vision and mission?
Look through your customer's eyes. Ask. One of the things that we do when we start with clients often is we'll ask the leadership team. So we like to meet with whoever from the leadership team, but we always like to have someone from sales in the room. And we'll ask, what's the one thing someone needs to know about your business that makes you different? And we used to do it in person. Now everything's on Zoom. We'd hand out index cards. Now we use chat. And I guess it is believable. No one writes the same thing. There is no shared language.
Give us an example. I want to hear an example. So give us an example of a company.
I mean, it's everybody. I mean, I'll put you on the spot. What do you think? I know you could say what your business is because you spoke about it eloquently at the beginning. But can your employees or team tell that story the same way, maybe in their own words? And could your prospects tell your story in the same way? Because if they don't hear what you're saying, you can think you're telling them the story, but it's not always coming through.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So how do you ensure that they all say the same thing? What do you do? Like, how do you
put it in
ensure
simple
that?
messaging? We'll figure out what it is. We start with who the target audience is, who the ideal customer profile is, who the influencers are. And we'll create a messaging framework that speaks about the brand benefits in the language that they want to hear. The CFO wants to hear something different than the line production person or whoever's making the decision. People are looking at everything through their own lens. So being able to speak to them, not like on their level, but in their parlance, what they want to hear. It's that simple. It's like people care about what they care about.
But
And
shouldn't you say it from the voice of what the customer wants to hear or what communicates to the customer?
what the customer wants to hear in words that will resonate with them, that's clear, concise, and compelling.
Right.
Let me give you an example. I love doing this, but I have to change my settings. Hold on. Sorry for everyone playing along at home. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to clap out a song. I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry. I'm going to clap out a song that you've heard hundreds and hundreds of times. Just tell me what it is. This will be easy. No pressure. Okay.
I can't hear you clapping. That's the problem on the
Oh,
recording.
okay. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Go on. Guess any song.
No, tell me.
Okay, everyone, what I get is either Happy Birthday or Twinkle Twinkle or something like that, something everybody's heard. It was a Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see? So that's an example of, I can hear it so clearly in my head. Oh, say, can you see? How can you not hear that? But I'm
Right.
only giving you part of the information. So you have to make sure that you give people all of the information they need. You speak to them. People are the perfect combination of stupid and lazy. They don't care about your brand. They don't care about your business. They care about what they care about, and they're not going to burn 1 calorie of brain power trying to figure out what you're trying to say if they don't understand it immediately. If it doesn't catch them right away, if it's not simple and compelling, they're moving on. People get bombarded with how many messages, how many emails,
Well, there's definitely a lot of noise out there.
you got to you got to sharpen the knife to cut through the clutter.
Yeah.
So it's, sharpen that message. And
So
then
give us some practical advice. Our listeners are listening right now, and they go, okay, I have my mission. Or maybe they don't. They need to then have their mission first, right?
what makes them unique? What makes them unique? And why does someone care? Like, it's, you know, ask yourself the question, have someone else in the room say what you do that's unique, and then just ask, so what? Or who cares? Well, these people care. Why? Because of this. I mean, just dig down and ask really simple questions of yourself and get into, like, why does someone care? This is what I do. Who cares? Why do they care? What's it mean to them? How does it improve their job? How does it improve their life? There's so many, and then you just really, so there's I didn't come up with this. I wish I would have. But I think it was Al Reese in positioning. It was start with the prospect, not the product. So you've got to get inside their head. So they've got their point of view, their framework, their how they think, how they act. And that's where you need to start. Don't start from what you want to say. Start from what's in their head, what they want to hear. And realize that that's going to change over a sales process, over the sales cycle. What they want to hear when they're first learning about something and getting awareness is going to be different than when they're about to sign on the dotted line. People have different questions throughout the entire bind. They're looking at the same thing through a different filter.
So you need to have answers to each one of the phases.
And if your sales team knows what questions people have. They
Mm-hmm.
know what objections they run up against. So figuring out the answers to those questions in a way that creating a playbook that everyone can use.
Right. And that's why, like, for instance, on my website, I have the frequently asked questions, and it's, it's based, I mean, I read the book, They Ask You Answer,
Yeah,
which is a
that's,
great book.
yeah. And like who you are, like for your clients, that, it's keep it simple. But you're also the one primarily doing sales for your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which is great and very common, but as other people are telling your story, as other salespeople are using your sales process, um, having that, I know your process, having your sales process well defined and documented, and having it be consistent. Um, that's an area where the alignment between sales and marketing there's a chasm there. Um, an example of that, this is a pretty big company. I want to say like $100 million software company. And the chief marketing officer was our contact, and they left. And we got a call from the, you know, main sales guy, VP of sales, whatever his title was. And we flew down to Atlanta to meet with them, just to make sure they had what they needed. And he's like, okay, so here's what I really need. I need A, B, C, D, and E. Like, that's what I need to get going. We looked at each other. We're like, you have A, B, C, D, and E, and here they all are. Sales never explained to marketing where the tools were, how to use them, when to use them. It's the industry term is sales enablement. But it's really understanding, it's arming your people with the tools they need when they need them. And so that's right up your alley in terms of process.
It is, and I think it's also what you're talking about in terms of aligning the marketing and the sales to the mission and the vision of the organization.
Yeah.
You're basically creating a process where that mission can be executed. Because if you are aligning the marketing to the vision and the mission and the vision and the core values, then you're basically creating a workable process that can be followed in order to execute the plans.
Exactly. Like again, I use EOS as a reference a lot just because I think a lot of people are familiar with it. Any leadership team, when you get everyone aligned on what it is that you do, what you're great at, how you're going to do it, people walk out of those meetings generally pretty charged up. This is great. Everyone's aligned, blah, blah, blah. And then it doesn't result in sales because they're not telling that story. They leave the room. Maybe some of their employees can tell this story. Their customers certainly haven't heard it. Their website's not saying it. And it's as simple as aligning everything. It's just
So David, let me ask you a question. So if we want to give our listeners here a process that they can follow in order to align their marketing and their messaging with the actual vision and mission, what's the first step? What would you do?
what we do first is figure out what we think the benefits are, the tangible benefits that they provide that's unique. And if not, how to make them unique. And what I mean by tangible benefits, great customer service, that's a great benefit. It's really squishy though. But we answer the phone on the third ring. We respond to emails in 12 business hours, whatever it is, make it tangible, make it so people understand it. Because, and here's the other, I apologize, I'm all over the place. Welcome to ADD. The other thing, in addition to the benefits, is what's the emotion behind it? That's probably the second biggest mistake people make. So they get to maybe they understand what the real benefits are, but then what's the emotion that your prospect has that's attached to that? We are emotional beings. We like to think that we're logical and we make every decision we make is rational. It's not. Nobody is Spock from Star Trek. We make our decisions, every one of them, based on the emotion, and then we backfill it with logic and reason. So it's the ones that people use, obviously in political, is fear and anger. Like those are some pretty powerful emotions to tap into.
So you're saying you have to identify what emotion you want to use in order to communicate?
How is the prospect going to feel? How do you want them to feel? Because when they feel first, they think later. So how do they feel about your product or your brand? And I used anger and, and fear. Those aren't necessarily great marketing ones to use. Like you don't want your brand necessarily, but they're powerful. Look how powerful they are.
Right.
And then, on either side, they get people riled up with emotion and fear and anger, and then they can get them to do whatever they want.
Good. So you identify your unique proposition, you identify what is it that you are doing that is unique, you identify how you want to communicate and the quality of communication. What's next in order to create that marketing?
Then that part, there's a creative part to it, obviously. You've got to, ChatGPT is not going to put all the good copywriters out of business yet. We definitely use AI, but creating a messaging framework, you want to create an umbrella theme for whatever your brand is. And then for the different products, they're like all under that umbrella. They're all singing the same song, again, maybe a different key. And then drilling down, all the messaging should align with that umbrella message. So it's like a big, I guess, funnel. We'll say it. I hate sales funnels, but they really trickle down to every
So basically what you're
target
saying
audience.
is that you have to have aligned communication and aligned messaging according to what you decided that your value is, what you want to communicate. So communicate clearly, identify your message, and then communicate with the same voice.
The same voice. And if there's an umbrella theme, if there's like spoke, it's where you want to be is our tagline. And the whole thing is we want to figure out what your business goals, like we're here to help you reach your business goals. Where do you want to be? That's where we start. And then we'll go from there and look at what have you done? What's keeping you from getting there? What are the steps we need to do to get you there? What's going to be the return on your investment? Because marketing there should be a return on marketing investment. And then just map out how to get there. And then, yeah, I could go on about that too, but.
It's totally okay. That's good.
Well,
All right, David.
okay, I'll throw you one more thing then.
Please.
Another thing I see people struggling with a lot. They think, and again, this is back to those operating systems. Or the Rockefeller habits or scaling up, any of them, you talk about rocks. These are your marketing rocks for the quarter. This is what you're going to achieve this quarter. And that's great. And having accountability, and maybe you're going to refresh your website, or maybe you're going to everyone clean up your CRM. Just do that, please. Maybe you're going to clean up whatever that rock is, but look at next quarter's rock too, and the following and the following and the following. So they should all, this is again, aligning marketing with your vision. Let's say we live in a 90-day world, is what a lot of them say. We get things done in a quarter, great. But think about 5 quarters. Think about this quarter What are you going to do this quarter? And then the next 4 quarters to get you where you want to be. So it's, and the next quarter, maybe, so the quarter you're working on, that's set in stone. This is what we're doing this quarter. The next quarter, maybe you're writing it in pen. It might change a little bit, we'll see. The next one might be pencil. The next one might be sand. The next one
So
might
basically
be
have a
visible.
plan with specific rocks that you can accomplish. Absolutely.
But that lead to that goal. Because
that leads to the goal. Yeah.
if you leave your quarterly leadership meeting or your annual leadership meeting and you don't know what the rocks are going to be for that year, I think you're doing a disservice, especially in marketing. But
Right.
I see that a lot. Maybe
Right.
other areas don't see it, but with marketing, I see it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, David, if people want to find out about you, where should they go?
Spokemarketing.com. And they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love learning about people's businesses. I love helping them. Happy to talk to anyone who's listening to your podcast, give them a few minutes. And if I can't help, figure out if we can help them, if we can't, or if we're not a right fit. I love pointing people in the right direction. If someone needs to pick my brain, there's no ROI on it for me, but it's probably what I enjoy most about my business.
Fantastic. All right, David. Well, thank you for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.